G'day, wonderful listeners. This is episode 51 of Trev's Talk, and I'm your host, Trev. Last week, I left off talking about anti-Semitism rising in Australia and how Jewish leaders were hammering that point, which made the average Aussie sound bad. I tried to show that the anti-Semitism in Australia was coming from the radical Islamist element in Australia, not the average citizen. I hope you, wonderful listeners, understood what I was trying to say and don't hate the ordinary peace-loving Jews. Please direct your anger against the group affected by radical Islamic theology, the radical Islamists. I would also like to mention that we can forgive Jewish leaders who are really hammering the point that anti-Semitism is rising over the last couple of years and sort of blaming the ordinary everyday Aussie. Also, harshly at times, pointing the finger at our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. I want to say something to lessen the angry words of the Jewish leaders. I understand the tremendous grief and loss they've suffered at Bondi Beach. I know that tremendous grief makes people react in ways that are not always rational and reasonable. Any person suffering heavy grief can say hurtful things to people as they are hurting themselves. They can strike out and hurt people around them and even be nasty because their grief causes them to be temporarily irrational. So let's forgive the angry Jewish leaders that are lashing out wildly at the moment. There are other ways the Jews and the Muslims can embed themselves more strongly into the Australian landscape. They can make themselves more Aussie and not be so separate, which they tend to do. They are sort of closed shops. How many Aussies have Jewish or Muslim friends? For instance, can you pick up your phone and call a Jew or Muslim you know? That brings me to chat again about my Moody Scholarship Fund project. I have given up on trying to get Jewish or Muslim involvement. I have spent many hours and days on trying to get Jewish and Muslim leaders to co-found the Scholarship Fund, together with Christian leaders, to make the fund a true interfaith initiative. The three faiths could have been showing themselves to the public as champions of an Aboriginal cause, such as education improvement of Aboriginal kids. That would have, for Jews and Muslims, definitely passed the pub test, but I was only able to secure Christian involvement. My reaching out to Jews and Muslims was blocked at every turn. I have accepted that the scholarship project will go forward now as a Christian-alone co-founded project. However, I still need 4 co-founders to make the project work if it is to work long into the future. I've already got involvement from the Anglican and Catholic Archdiocese as co-founders and need 2 more. So I have sent an email to the State President of Vinnies for a meeting to discuss the Scholarship Fund project and invite them to be a co-founder. Although I am a 35-year member of Vinnies, I have asked for a meeting as the president of the Medjugorje Centre, which is the administrator of the Scholarship Fund. Vinnies has a reconciliation action plan for working towards full reconciliation with the First Nations people of Australia, and the Scholarship Fund project will fit neatly with such a reconciliation plan. It is also an ideal of Vinnies' rule that Vinnies should work with other charities having expertise for helping the marginalised in ways that Vinnies does not have itself. Also, Vinnies has a name in their constitution stating 1E, to liaise with and share resources with other charitable and benevolent organisations with the objective of assisting people in need. With all these considered, I can't see how Vinnies cannot be willing to join with the Medjugorje Centre and co-found the Moody Scholarship Fund project. If that turns out to be all correct, I will ask Vinnies State President to join with me in an invitation to the Salvos to become the fourth co-founder. I believe Vinnies has already collaborated with the Salvos on another project, and when the Salvos hear what the aim of the Scholarship Fund is, education of Aboriginal youth, I'm sure they will be inclined to join the other three co-founders. Now, going back to the anti-Semitism problem suffered by the Jewish community in Australia that I talked about a few minutes ago, I can see that if the Jewish community had collaborated with the Medjugorje Centre and publicly supported the Charity Scholarship Fund, which benefits Aboriginal youth education, then that support would have been noted by everyday Aussies and would have seriously pushed back against anti-Semitism. The same opinion carries for the Muslim community as well. If they had publicly supported the Scholarship Fund designed to help educate Aboriginal youth, the effect on the everyday Aussies would have been very positive and seriously pushed back against Islamophobia. So, I think a great opportunity was lost by two of the three great Abrahamic faiths. But the Scholarship Fund project will still go ahead as a Christian-only, co-founded project. On the 15th of December 2025, I made that sad decision. I decided to drop altogether the idea of forming a three-faith project with Christians, Jews and Muslims. It proved to be just too hard to do. Every move I made to interest Jews and Muslims got blocked, and I came to believe the Holy Spirit and Our Lady wanted me to do a Christian-only project. On the night of the 15th, after coming to that sad decision, I received beautiful ecstasies. I had not received ecstasies for quite some time prior to that night, so they were highly and joyfully received. I believe I was given the ecstasies because I had made the decision to forge ahead as a Christian-only, co-founded project. I mentioned earlier in this podcast that I would approach Vinnies State President and offer the opportunity of co-founding the scholarship project to them. Well, I did go ahead with that by emailing the State President for a meeting to discuss the idea, and much to my delight, he arranged with me a suitable time for both of us to have a chat about Vinnies coming on board with the project. After that meeting, wonderful listeners, I will report to you. On the news recently, there was a story about thousands of people dancing and celebrating the winter solstice at Stonehenge. These thousands of people are gathering and honouring the sun, a false god. Such an act would be an affront to the real one and only true God. This is the sort of behaviour Our Lady is fighting against at Medjugorje. Also, you can ask Google or ask AI if there are satanic groups in Australia, and you will be presented with quite a few groups. Some of these groups present themselves as doing charitable works, but they are nonetheless honouring Satan, which is an affront to God. In America, the satanic groups are aiming for equal time in schools with Christian groups so they can educate kids to their satanic beliefs. They say it is discrimination that they don't have equal time with any other religious groups. In Australia, my AI assistant says there was a group, the Noosa Temple of Satan, that attempted to gain access to Queensland state schools to teach religious instruction. The attempt was rejected by the courts, but you can see the direction of the satanic group's desires. They want to have access to classrooms full of kids to give religious education skewed towards their satanic beliefs. Well, wonderful listeners, that's it for this week. Don't forget you can comment on anything said in my podcasts. Have a say on your listening platform, whether it's YouTube or Spotify. Thanks for your company this week, and I look forward to it again next week. This is Trev, tuning out.